Justin, can you tell us about your hackathons or datafests in Africa, Hackers Africa, and opening data, tools you use? What will make a successful datafest in Argentina?
So I think the very important thing is that it's easy to get people to come to an event and get them very excited, because this is an exciting area where suddenly we see that we've got tools and information that we can use to shape or reshape the world that we live in, to make the world better. The difficult thing is to organize these events in a way that there's follow through afterwards, and that also you get the right mix of people to come to the event. So our strategy in Africa has been not to immediately launch with a datafest, a big event. It's rather have a series of small build-up events to it first. And what we've been doing is we first do data boot camps, which are 1 week long. And what they are is they are intensive workshops for between 80 and 100 people. And 30% of those people are programmers, 30% of them are journalists, and 30% of them are design people. So to create the way that people interact with whatever is built. And we teach them the raw tools. So we teach them things like Google Refine, Fusion, Tableau, R, some of the kind of more complicated tools that you wouldn't have time to learn to use during a data fest or during a hackathon. Because during a data fest or a hackathon, you want to be building stuff. So we do a couple of these boot camps, which is one-on-one training. So a group of 100 people would have roughly 20 trainers. The people work in groups. So on the very first day of the boot camp, we get groups of journalists, programmers and developers to form into teams, and they sit next to each other. So the journalist who's never worked with a spreadsheet before suddenly has a programmer sitting next to him, that when he sees something on the board or he hears the lecturer saying something, if he doesn't get it the first time, the programmer can help him. The same goes if suddenly the programmer is learning about how to tell a narrative and he doesn't quite understand it, he can turn to the journalist. So suddenly what happens is you get peer learning, so team member to team member learning happening, and that's very important for building kind of team spirit and also for building passion into the project. So we have boot camps that start first. We award small amounts of money, not as prizes, but as seed grants. So it's an investment into the project, so that the people, once they've started building something small at a boot camp, have now got a bit of money that they can go away on weekends or in the night and they can try and complete their project. So it's important that people finish what they start, because otherwise what happens at hackathons and at data fests is you start doing and playing with an idea, but you never finish it. Once we've done the boot camps, we then have scrapathons. So scrapathons are an event where, again, 100 to 150 people get together and we decide what kind of information is important for this public, for the citizens of the country, or for journalists. And then we go and we find that information. If it's in a difficult or inaccessible place, we scrape it, so we liberate it. And then we clean the information and we structure it. And the reason for this is that when a hackathon happens, you want to be able to have ready-to-use information so you can build stuff quickly. So the scrapathons then also start building a public resource. All the information that we scrape, we put into a public repository. We use CCAN, which is a data management hub repository, but there are other kinds, things like Socrata, which is a paid-for one. I think here in Argentina, Junar is a fairly popular data visualization platform. So there are various options, but the idea is that you create one where there's a standardized set of standards, of licensing, and also that people know that this is the one place that they go to find information for an entire country. We don't just target government information, because government information only tells one side of the story. So we also then target universities and non-profits who do a lot of research, and we try and bring that information into the public space as well. After the scrapathons, only then do we start thinking about hackathons and bigger festivals. And you've almost then laid the foundations by giving people skills during the boot camps and giving them raw material during the scrapathons. And then the hackathons are all about making stuff. And those we usually try and not go more than 250 people because then it gets too big. And we try and also focus the hackathons on a theme. So the ones that we do are designed for democracy, code for democracy, and that's building tools that ordinary citizens can use to improve their lives. So we always say, who is the client? The client is the ordinary citizen. It's not a newspaper, it's not a government department, it's not a journalist. We must build things that normal people will use. Otherwise what happens is you just build projects that look pretty, but they don't get used by anyone. So the hackathons are the code for democracies, and then we also do design for democracy. And that's where, using the same information, we then pull together the artistic community. Designers, infographic people, painters, graffiti artists. We say, now, using this information, how do we tell stories visually that people can use to understand all of this very dense, complicated data? And that then starts producing things like poster campaigns, as I say, graffiti campaigns, or cell phone apps and computer programs that are beautifully visualized.
How long have you been involved in these boot camps, datafests, hackathons in Africa?
So we started...
How you got so many people involved?
So we started about slightly over a year ago, so not very long. And we got people engaged by building a network of communities. So we built chapters of Hacks and Hackers. And we've also then gone and tapped into existing communities. So our Hacks and Hackers chapters don't just meet in bars or restaurants. They go and they try and meet always at an incubator, or at an accelerator, or at one of these tech labs. Why? Because there are already people who are involved or are interested and passionate about rebuilding the world using digital tools. So it's almost taking content as journalists and then injecting that into existing communities. And by using that strategy, we've managed to go from very, very small to very big very quickly. It also means that people don't feel like we're coming in and stealing resources from the community. What we're doing is we're coming and we're strengthening the existing community by putting new people and new resources into it. And we now have chapters meeting and working in 10 African countries, and we intend to do another 10 countries this year. It's also important that you don't grow too quickly, because otherwise you grow very fast and there's very poor follow-through, and then people become disillusioned. So it's important that once you've started a process, you make sure that there's aftercare programs or support for the people who go to hackathons, who go to scrapathons. Otherwise they come to an event, they get excited, they go home, and then they don't know what to do to actually act on that excitement. So you need to have a support team in the background who then helps people achieve some of these new ideals and new projects that they've started.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.